y'all, this is your girl Nikki with Dallas Families on a Dime, and I wanted to come and share with you the book that I just finished reading. It's called The Book of Night Women, and it's written by Marlon James. He's a professor over in Jamaica, and this book was very interesting. It was a lengthy read. It was over 400 pages, but it was well worth it. It took me about 3 days to read it. I really wanted to just soak it in, and it was difficult for me. And I'm going to tell you why. The book is about slavery. It's I've read a lot of books on slavery, but I really liked this one. It just had a different aspect of it. You know, sometimes when you read books on slavery, they kind of gloss over it. They romanticize it. They're like, oh, it wasn't that bad, you know, or either it was bad, but they don't go into graphic detail. This book went into graphic detail. It's written. It's the time frame is at the end of the 18th century, and it's the story takes place in Jamaica, and it's on a sugarcane plantation. And the protagonist, her name is Lilith, and she was born into slavery. Her mom was, I guess, a purebred African. Her mom was 14 years old. Her mom was raped, and her mom had her, and her mom died in childbirth. Her dad was the overseer, and she was born. She's very dark complexion, but she was born with green eyes. And they said at her birth, people knew she had this dark power over her, and she just most girls back then at that time, you know, they didn't maintain their virginity for very long, just because of, you know, different situations on the plantation that, you know, either it was taken from them. And so she was one of the few that actually held on to it for a good piece of time until she was like, I think 15 or 16. So anyway, she goes through a lot of things trying to keep their virginity, but so she ends this one guy, he tries to rape her. They call them Johnny Jumpers, and it was difficult for me to read this book, y'all. I'm gonna tell you because it's in it has a lot of slave dialect. It has some Jamaican words that I'm not familiar with, like bakra, and they use it. Not only are they Jamaican words, Jamaican slang that is current now, but then they had the dialect that they used then. So like they was, instead of them saying like one thing they say like bumbleclass and kambalo, and I was like, what? And I mean like kambalo means like, you know, two shall be one, like the slave and the owner, or the, you know, or the you know, like married couples and stuff. So they had different meanings. So it took me a minute to really get my mind, okay, Nikki. And that took like pretty much like about a day for me to just go through all these words, because I'm like, I don't know what a bakra is. Are they saying a bakra is a master? Is that an overseer? What is that? And then they got the Johnny Jumper. So it's different from reading a slave book that's written from an American, you know. So it was just that took a minute. But once you really get into it, it's a really good story. Like I said, Lilith, she this Johnny Jumper, which he's like Johnny Jumpers are like the people that work right up under the overseer. They're the slaves who whip other slaves, keep them in line. You know, the overseer sits up on the horse. The Johnny Jumpers take care of the you know, the folks on the field. So the Johnny Jumpers, her mom died in childbirth, and then the overseer, because he felt so guilty, he gave her to this crazy couple, this one black lady. Her name was Cirque, and Cirque was like pretty much like a slave prostitute, and she was sleeping with the overseer and almost anybody else. And then the guy that stayed with Cirque, he wasn't her daddy. I mean, he wasn't her husband, but he was like crazy because they had actually chopped off his penis for like they said they caught him masturbating to like the mistress of the house. So they made him a Enoch, I think that's how you pronounce it. So he was just crazy ever since then. Well, anyway, he treated her like, she didn't remember that when all that happened, but he was always kind of like gone in the mind. So she just always thought he was a really good kind of dad to her. So she lived with those kind of two people, the prostitute mom and then the crazy dad. So that kind of made her a little thrilled. Well, anyway, so her mama was kind of like jealous and felt like she was in a Johnny Jumper to rape her, to take her down a notch, to take Lilith down a notch. Well, anyway, Lilith ended up killing him. That was the first person she killed. She killed the Johnny Jumper. I mean, cut him into little pieces. And so then the lady who was the head slave on the plantation, she took Lilith up under her wing. Now, the Book of Night Women is about women who got together at night who plotted the slave rebellion. But this particular group, this head mistress, she saw a dark power. She saw something in Lilith like, this is a killer for real, so I need her on my team. So she took her into the big house, because all the other Johnny Jumpers, they was trying to kill her, because they like, you know, you killed our brother, so we're going to have to get you. And so the head slave took her in her house, because she was the head chef at the big house. Lilith stayed in the cellar most of the time, and then, because, you know, people was like kind of afraid of her. You know, at that time, slaves weren't killing other slaves, but she was really trying to keep herself from being raped, because, you know, she was frightened. Even though her mama was a prostitute, she wasn't that type of chick. So, okay, so she ends up getting to know the other women in the kitchen. She just had a mouth on her. She was real fly. Well, she ended up, I mean, there was a lot of like voodoo in the book. Like, she wanted to be a maid at this particular New Year's Eve ball, and she didn't want the woman to die, but she told this other lady, she's like, I need you to do something to her so I could take her position just to work that ball. And I guess she didn't understand the powers, how dark magic works. So the woman that Lilith wanted the spell put on actually ended up dying. And they call it the bloody flux, where you bleed out of your nose, your ears, your vagina, every orifice you have, blood comes out. And so the white people at the time were like, what, we got a plague going on? But really it was like a curse had been put on the woman. Okay, so Lilith felt really bad about that, because she was like, I didn't want that woman to die. I just wanted to work as a maid in the big house, because she really had a crush on the new master of the house. His daddy was going kind of crazy because his daddy was in the war, and his daddy died, and he was in boarding school, and then when he came back, his mama put him in charge. So she kind of had a crush on him because he was young and, you know, cute. Well, anyway, he slapped a taste out of her mouth one time, and I guess that kind of changed her opinion on how she felt about him. She realized she really was a slave. She wasn't no better than the other ones. It didn't matter if you had green eyes or what, you was still, you know, a Negro. So that's what it is. Well, anyway, his girlfriend, the owner, the slave owner, he was from England, so he was a little bit more sophisticated, but he still was who he was. So his girlfriend, she was trying to holler at him. She started coming to his house every day for lunch under the guise that she was going to help his mama plan the ball, because his mama was kind of loopy ever since her husband died. She just kind of was like, my husband's just outside all day in the field working. She didn't really understand that her husband had really died, and that her son was back home. She would mistake her son for her husband. Well, anyway, so the chick was like, you know, here's a single young man. He on this big plantation. I'm going to try to get with him. And so she used to come over to the house every day. Well, anyway, come to find out in the book, she was hooked on a lot of them back in the day. Y'all remember that? That it was kind of like, it's a derivative of opium. It was a liquid. And she was like a freak. And, you know, back in the day, you know, white chicks, you know, of course, like black women, we couldn't hold on our virginities because they was always trying to get it. But with white women, they was really supposed to wait till they was married. But not her. She was giving it to him. She was giving him the business. Well, anyway, she was hooked on drugs, and he didn't know it. Well, he brought this, one of his homeboys that came with him from England. He was Irish. And back then, you know, Irish people, they were considered potato eaters. They're like, you just one step above a slave. So he was like, he could kind of, sort of, not really relate to the slave. I mean, when people talked about him, they talked about him like a dog too. But he still was kind of like, you know, he still was the overseer. So he still whip him, you know what I'm saying? Because that was his job. Well, anyway, he fell for Lilith. Him and Lilith ended up moving in together. And mind you, they're still plotting this slave rebellion at night. They tell her what's going on. At first, she wasn't with it because she was like, I ain't trying to, you know, get into this. Y'all crazy. You know, people gonna die. But what happened was, during that, y'all, it's just so good. Like I said, this is a 400-page book. I could go on probably like the full 10 minutes and tell y'all how good this book is. But I'm going to save a little bit for you. And I ain't even told y'all probably like a quarter of what the book is about. It's real deep. I mean, she has to go on and she kills other people in the book. But it's reasons behind why she kills them, not justifying it, but you know, it's reasons. It's just a really good read once you get into it. You know, like I said, here's the cover again. And a great, great, great book. He's just, you know, he's like, if y'all know Edgewood Danticat, he's kind of like her type of, if you like her books, man, you'll like him. Marlon James. So I just wanted to share with y'all what I'm reading. If y'all notice the background behind me, y'all know I moved into my new fixer-upper cottage. And you know me, I'm a country girl at heart, so I painted my kitchen a melon color. And then I put this border up that I got from Walmart. It was about $7. My little country cottage theme, and I kind of like did this chair like in this old, I don't know if y'all can see this chair, but maybe another video I'll show you, but I kind of did it like in an old distressed look. I like stuff like that, and it comes in handy when I have kids. And I've been a little bit under the weather because my sinuses and everything have been acting up, and but you know what we say, sip until you feel it. So what I've been sipping on is Theraflu, yeah, it's been sipping on me some Theraflu, the daytime version. It's working. I don't like the way when it goes down, because even though it's warming, to me it makes me sick, because I guess it's a little bit too much sugar in here for me. I'm sick and it makes me a little bit sicker. But I want to come and share that with y'all. And I'm going to try to upload this and get this off to y'all so y'all can see what it's about. Hopefully y'all will pick it up. I don't know how many people have read this, but it's a good read if you have some time during the summer. A lot of time to get into it. Alright, talk to you guys later. Bye.